Our first speaker is Regan Mandryk, and she is a professor of computer science in Canada at the University of Saskatchewan. She is also a formidable academic. She's a Tier 1 Canada Research Chair in Digital Gaming Technologies and Experience. She actually pioneered the area of affective physiological evaluation for computer games in her dissertation, with support from Electronic Arts, which is one of the biggest game companies in the world. She has over 200 publications that have been cited over 10,000 times, including one of Google Scholar's 10 classic papers in HCI from 2006. And I just love the thud weight of her background, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what she has to say. So take it away, please, Regan.
Thanks for that great introduction. It's really exciting to be here. The kind of work that I do in games is what I'm going to talk to you about today. And it basically starts with my big audacious question. And that's, how can we harness the motivational pull of games to benefit people? The fact that I want my work to benefit people rather than harm them just means that I'm not some evil Disney villain character. But the more interesting part of this question for today is, why games? And for some of you, what I'm going to show you will be a little scary, so I'll ease you into it a bit and start with the good stuff. First, money. The global games market generated revenues of $175 billion in 2020. And consumers spend more on games than on movies and music combined. But games are more than just a fun leisure activity. Some of you may be familiar with the concept of esports, which is organized and competitive gaming, and 500 million people are fans. Kids can go to college on an esports scholarship, they can make a career out of it, and the Olympic Council of Asia is including esports in the Asian Games in 2022. So most of you likely still feel pretty comfortable. We know that entertainment is business, and we get it, but it gets scarier. This is a picture of my kids visiting their cousins in Vancouver a few years ago. They'd only met a handful of times in person and only for a short time. But what this shows is somewhat typical of kids these days. 80 to 90% of young people play games, and the average young person racks up 10,000 hours of gaming by the age of 21. This is the same magical number of hours that Anders Ericsson's studies showed virtuoso musicians spent practicing, which you may recognize as popularized and maybe oversimplified by Malcolm Gladwell. And this implies, though, that the average young person is basically a virtuoso in gaming. So are you scared? These kids are the future leaders of our countries. Well, maybe not these particular kids, but you get the idea. These people will one day make our laws, and they'll invent new planes, and they'll perform my hip surgeries when I get old. And I'm sure that a lot of you are thinking that these stats are horrifying. What will a future society run by people who grew up playing so many games even look like? You're thinking perhaps of the negative stereotypes of what happens to people who play games. You're thinking perhaps of someone like Jenkins. This is the griefer from the Make Love Not Warcraft episode of South Park. His name is Jenkins, and he does a great job of embodying a number of common stereotypes that people have about computer gamers. So as a researcher and as a parent, I had to think, are these stereotypes founded? Does that $175 billion in revenue come at a great cost to society? Do I have to worry that this gamer will turn into this gamer? So that's why I asked this big audacious question. And to give you a very quick snapshot, these are the kind of things that my team and I investigate. First, we investigate the cognitive, social, emotional, and well-being benefits of gaming for people, from kids to elderly people living in long-term care. To do this, we use computational modeling, methods from neuroscience, including imaging, and approaches typical of human-computer interaction. And all of our work consistently shows that there are demonstrable benefits of gaming for all populations. A second area of research is that we use machine learning approaches to use in-game behavior as digital biomarkers of mental health concerns, focusing mostly on the assessment of depression, anxiety, social anxiety, and psychosis. We've been successful in demonstrating the efficacy of different game-based biomarkers and are working towards improved classification. Related to assessment, we also harness the motivational pull of games to help combat attrition in different types of interventions, mostly in the context of mental health. And we also design novel interventions that are based on gaming contexts. For this work, we collaborate with a lot of different clinical psychologists and psychiatrists. We apply all this work in the context of recreational gaming, but also in the context of competitive play. In esports, we further investigate elite performance under pressure, known as clutching and choking. We model how toxic behaviors in these contexts is normalized, and we create machine learning models to detect toxic interactions online in real time. Toxicity is a major issue facing us today in multiplayer gaming, and it needs to be solved because social gaming has so many benefits that can be thwarted by toxic interactions. These benefits of social play are why we focus a lot on how to connect people through play, innovating new technologies that help people feel connected with each other. We have invented new tech that connects players with each other physically over a distance, and also that connects game streamers with their audiences on a physiological level. And to do all of this work, we also conduct research on standard games user research. This is modeling players and understanding their experiences. Working with game companies, both indie studios and AAA studios, we invent new and improved ways of assessing whether a game under development is engaging. So can we harness the motivational pull of games to benefit people? Our research suggests yes, which makes me feel a little better about this situation. And as a side note, during this pandemic, these kids have played online together most days and every weekend. Minecraft, Roblox, Fortnite, D&D, they're actually closer to each other now than they've ever been. So we know that we can do it. And how can we do it? Well, that's the question that's driving me and all of my trainees to show up for work each and every day. So thank you very much.
That was really fascinating, Regan. It's such a huge range of work that you do. Sort of channeling questions people might have in the audience. And of course, we'll get to more of that in the networking at 4. But this notion of biomarkers of our emotional states, like things like depression, can you just say a little bit more about that? Like, is it, I'm playing solitaire slowly, or how do you know how I'm
sure.
doing?
Yeah, there are a number of behaviors that are characteristic of people with a certain mental health concern. For example, people with depression tend to engage from sad stimuli a little more slowly, and people with social anxiety tend to give a bit of a wider berth when they walk around other people. So if we can recreate these situations in a game and then measure players' behavior, that gives us basically a game-based digital biomarker. And there are lots of reasons why someone might exhibit a certain behavior in any given moment. And that's where machine learning comes in. Using a bunch of these biomarkers in combination, that actually can give us a pretty good classification.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to have to think about that the next time I'm playing.